podcast where we focus on helping you claim what's rightfully yours, your health and your freedom. We explore the three main areas of health: the physical realm, the biochemical realm, and the mental and emotional realm. We also explore all the areas of lifestyle we can find that will help you live more abundantly, regardless of where you're starting. And remember, in life, you'll either make excuses or create results. You choose. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, and I'm glad to be with you here today. Make sure to head on down to the show notes and click on the link to join our tribe of human-powered life heroes, where we'll update you on new shows, events, product launches, and so much more. Now, it's time to enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Powered Life Podcast. We have an amazing guest today. We're going to be talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart. It's called water, something I drink every single day, but we're going to talk about something called deuterium depleted water. And we have an expert on the show right now. This is Victor Sagalovsky. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm glad to have you. I've learned a little bit about this type of water. It doesn't make sense to me yet, but that's why I know we have you on the show, because I think you're going to shed some light on these type of product, because this is, for our audience, some may know it, some may already be ordering from you, but I'm sure there's a vast amount of people that are going, I don't know what this is, I need to learn more. So tell us, one, about yourself and how you got involved with this deuterium depleted water, and then let's dive into the water itself.
Great. Well, I got into this because I was studying health and aging, and from my early 20s, ever since I put two and two together that you are what you eat, I started taking great care and paying attention to lifestyle. And then as I did that, I got more into the biochemistry and science of nutrition. And then around 2004, I read an article that talked about this isotope of hydrogen known as deuterium, and it talked about deuterium depleted water and the research that has been ongoing in Eastern Europe since the late 50s. So this just enamored me. It made so much sense to me, so I just decided to pursue it. And it's been a long road. And a few years back, we started a company to import. We produce in another country, and then we import this water into the United States. And it's a very unique thing. So I don't even know where to start. But I'll start here, because I'll start at the name of your podcast, because it's the Human Powered Life, right? And I was thinking about that, and it made me think about how much energy we produce as humans. And we produce about 50 to 100 watts of energy, right? And we use 60,000, right, daily.
Wow.
If you take all the energy produced on the earth and divide that by the amount of humans on here, we realize that we are energy hogs. We cannot sustain ourselves because we have all these luxuries that we've grown used to, and that's the modern world. It's great. Mm-hmm. So we actually need 600 times more energy than we produce. So really, it's a big energy game that we're playing here while we're on Earth. And having analyzed this early, I saw this deuterium depletion thing. Okay, and this is all about energy, because it's about mitochondrial energy, right? As you age, you lose mitochondria, and that means you lose your ability to produce ATP and your ability to use the energy that you're creating, and your inability to generate more, because as you age, it's just the law of diminishing returns. The older you get, the less energy you have when you need more of it. So in 2004, I read this article called In Search of the Fountain of Youth, and it was talking about these scientists in Russia. They were trying to figure out why these long-lived peoples in Siberia, practically Eskimos, why they had such great longevity and had healthy lifespans. This was in the 50s. They didn't even have Western medicine there or anything that we could, there's no lifestyle like we have now. So it was a very harsh, or still is, very harsh environment. But back then it was very remote. They didn't even have local electricity. And this young gerontologist and biophysicist wanting to figure out why these people lived so long, because they had one census said 324 centenarians per 1 million, and everywhere else in Europe it's like 10 to 40. Okay,
wow. Okay.
So it's a lot, and so they started investigating their diet, started investigating everything they could, genetics, all of it, and then they honed in on the water that they were drinking. And at that time, this is the late 50s. It's only 15 years after 1931 when it was discovered that hydrogen is not only hydrogen. There's actually different isotopes of hydrogen, hydrogen 1, hydrogen 2, hydrogen 3. Hydrogen 1 is called protium. Hydrogen 2 is called deuterium. So they looked at this. They analyzed the water, and they saw that it had less deuterium in their water than everywhere else on the planet. Or there are certain places on the planet that have less deuterium. And in their case, that was 16% less than what most population centers in the world were drinking. And they said, okay, this must be it. This makes sense. So they started doing experiments with animals and plants. And sure enough, when you reduce the amount of deuterium in your water, everything grows bigger, faster, healthier, and lives longer. Now, why is that? Well, it took another 60 years to actually realize or understand the biochemistry of it and why it does this. But we'll get into how it plays into water, because deuterium is a form of hydrogen, and hydrogen we know is 75% of the universe. So it's the most abundant element. It's the number one element in the periodic table, and it's used for everything. It's for rocket ships, it fuels stars, and it fuels us. It fuels all living things. And the reason it does is because it's so simple. It's just a proton and electron. And every other element has multiple protons, multiple neutrons, multiple electrons. Now, deuterium, or that deuteron, is a proton and electron plus the added neutron. So that makes it double the mass, and that's deuterium. Oxygen also combines with deuterium. It's the heavier form of hydrogen. So as we know, water is H2O, but a little bit of water is HOD or HDO, and that D being deuterium. So that changes the kinetics and changes the dynamics of that molecule. And if you have a liter of water is 20,000 drops of water.
Okay.
So out of those 20,000 drops, 150 parts per million will be 6. So 6 drops out of 10,000 will not be H2O, will be HDO. In most places on the earth. Some places are a little less. So this impacts our biology because it's cumulative. So over time, from the food we eat and the water we drink, we accumulate this deuterium in our body between 1 and 4 grams. And this has a negative effect. And so as soon as I discovered this in 2004, I just made it my life work to go after this one, because I saw this as one of the upstream reasons why we age. Okay, it's not superficial. It's one of these things that defines our aging process. So to me, that was really fascinating, because I grew up, studying yoga and practicing yoga and learning about these immortals that have lived for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I was just enamored with these stories. So I wanted to understand, kind of like I don't have any professional credentials in gerontology, but I consider myself an armchair gerontologist, because I really like to study what causes us to age. So having identified this one factor, it's not the only one, but this one factor is the deuterium in our body. And then having investigated further over the last 15 years, came upon the work that's came out in the early 2000s, actually 2007. There's a doctor he's Dr. Olgun. He's the head of he's the dean of a medical university now. But he started studying this, and he looked at deuterium, and he said, well, so far, everybody said, 6 drops in water, or in a liter of water, what's the big deal? It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't do anything to us. Even though there is literature that early on in the 60s, or actually even before, the Americans in the 40s said deuterium is incompatible with biology. But these things get buried, and you have to dig them out. Anyway, so this scientist started looking at this problem, and he noticed that there's 4 to 6 times more deuterium in our body than basic constituents of life when you add them up together by molecular weight.
Okay.
We're talking glucose, magnesium, potassium, sodium chloride, all these things that we need for the continual functioning of our body. And he saw that there was a lot of deuterium here. So he said, well, there's a lot, 1 to 4 grams in the body. It's actually quite a bit. So he started looking at the kinetics of it, and he looked into the mitochondria, specifically into these ATP synthase nanomotors. Now we can get into the whole electron transport chain, all this biochemistry, but let's go to where the ATP is produced. And there's these little motors, they're known as ATP synthase nanomotors. And they're very elegant because they spin at 9,000 RPM, and they take protons from hydrogen protons, which cause the motor to spin, and then they generate ATP. So you have these motor generators in our bodies. Each mitochondria contains like over 300,000 of them. So it's quite profound how we make ATP in our bodies. Yeah. So he looked at this and he saw that a proton enters the motor and it causes it to spin. But when a deuteron enters it, or that proton-neutron pair, which again is twice the mass, it doesn't fit. It causes the motor to stutter and it jams, and there's torque and shear, and it ultimately, no ATP is produced in that moment. And if you do the math, this is happening every about 5.5 seconds. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, this is significant. So our bodies do attempt to filter deuterium from this energy production pathway, but it quickly gets overrun when we're young and keeps going. So then you look at the metabolic water, the water that's made inside our cells, and that's water that's already deuterium depleted. So there's a clue right there. The water that our body makes and recycles daily is water that doesn't have, or it still has, you'll never get rid of all of it, but you can reduce it. And that's what's so important, is the reduction of this. So the people that are living in these areas where they have lower deuterium in the water usually have a deuterium level that's in the 120 ppm range in the body, 120 to 130. But when you start studying this, you find out through this new branch of biochemistry known as deuteronomics, which endeavors to explain how deuterium is managed by the body. It shows you that the ideal amount of deuterium in the body is in the 120 range, 120 ppm range or below. Now everybody's walking around with a deuterium level that's about 150. And if you eat a lot of carbs, it's probably higher, or if you eat a lot. So most people are hovering in this 150 ppm range. And then sure enough, you go to places where the water has less deuterium, you see people are healthier. Their body's deuterium load is significantly reduced. Now, when I say significant, even a 10% delta is significant over time, because we're looking at entire lifespan here of decades. So it's a strategy for energy conservation, and it's also a strategy for protecting our mitochondria and our DNA and everything in our biology, essentially, because any time that a deuterium takes the place reserved for hydrogen 1 or protium, so whenever a hydrogen 2 takes the place reserved for hydrogen 1, it causes problems because it's twice the mass. So it causes distortion in the shape of enzyme molecules. It causes distortion in your DNA, which causes mutation, inability to replicate properly. And this is the internal and outward signs of aging. So when we reduce this deuterium in our bodies, then not only do we have the potential for longer lifespan, but better health span. And in terms of athletic performance, I think this can be a real game changer.
Yeah. So actually, you got me thinking. I have like probably a zillion questions at this point. But just going to, there's a quote that I just want to share, and I'm going to bring it into the conversation. It says, "Nature needs no help, just needs no interference." And that's by a guy named B.J. Palmer, is a chiropractor, like the developer of chiropractic. And when I'm thinking about is this the deuterium that we're finding in water, and we're finding in human cells, we're finding it
everything, food, everything, yeah,
everything. So is this something that started to occur when we started to interact with with chemicals or whatever it may be with the universe and the planet, or is this something this is inherent to the planet?
It's always been here. It's been a constant. Okay. It's always been here. It's just been increasing.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
So I think, my personal theory, and there is some validity to back it up, is that Homo sapiens, our species, our subspecies, essentially is about 120 to 200,000 years old, let's say. And at that time, we had less deuterium on the planet. So it's been creeping up. So that's why our physiology is really adapted more toward a level that's about 20% less than what we have now.
Okay.
And in fact, and modern lifestyle doesn't help any of this either. Of
course.
Because you can maintain healthy or low deuterium levels through intermittent fasting, through being keto adapted, things like this that are more natural to us, at least our historic selves.
Okay.
So now we have artificially fortified foods. Nature's strategy is to load the carbs with deuterium and deplete the fats. So people are eating a lot more carbs. It's also we're eating just a lot more. Period. I mean, if you look at the chronic obesity that we have, it's never didn't have that a couple generations back. Yeah. So it's a combination of lifestyle factors and the fact that deuterium has been going up, and really it's a biohack. It's a new biohack because there's nowhere on the planet that you can find water that has the same amount of deuterium as we make. The lowest on the planet is Antarctica. It's 89 parts per million.
Hey, we're giving you a short break here where you can head down to the show notes or lifestylelocker.com and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You'll be the first to know about new shows, events, product launches, affiliate specials, and more. And now, back to the show. Okay.
And if you're in Los Angeles or any coastal city, it's 150. And the oceans is 155.76 to be exact.
Okay.
So Antarctica is locked in, it's land locked in time. So that water there is locked from 40 to 80 million years ago. Yeah. So deuterium has been going up, and so we want to keep it down to increase our lifespan and really increase our not just lifespan, but our health span. I think that would be more important.
Yeah,
I don't think we can ever predict. Sure. Yeah, I don't think we can ever predict how long we're going to live. There's plenty of healthy corpses that didn't get hit by a car, but in terms of health span, I think this is something that is here to stay. But this is a top level biohack. We're going to learn more about it as time goes on, because we're making a water that we make a water that has 94 to 97% of deuterium removed. So that doesn't occur on the planet. Now, they can drink it straight, but it's not necessary. In fact, people dilute it because it's expensive. And just the strategy is to get yourself down 20%. So you can do that by drinking water that's 120 ppm, right? Mm-hmm. But so we figured out a process. There's only a few companies in the world that can do this, and we figured out a process to do this, because you're not removing contaminant from water per se, in terms of something that is other than water, like fluoride or any heavy metals or calcium. You're removing water from water. It's a different water molecule. It sounds odd, but because oxygen, unfortunately, I like to say oxygen is too stupid to tell the difference between a deuterium and a protium. Yeah. So we're stuck with it.
So in this process, when you're so-called cleaning, I'll just call it cleaning the water, right, from deuterium, is there a byproduct, or is it just it's gone?
Not really. The byproduct is water that's slightly higher in HDO, like it goes up to 180 ppm, which is really nothing. Now, let's go back in time a little bit. We're about 9 years away from the anniversary of 100 years of discovering that hydrogen has multiple isotopes. Okay. This is significant because if Dr. Urey hadn't discovered that, won a Nobel Prize for it, we wouldn't have atomic energy, we wouldn't have atomic bombs, we wouldn't have that today, because deuterium plays a big part in that. So it really ushered in the atomic age. So as soon as they discovered that there was another version of hydrogen that was twice the mass because of that neutron, they said, well, let's synthesize D2O in a lab, right? You have H2O, and then they synthesize D2O, which is heavy water. I said, okay, this looks like water, tastes like water, feels like water. Is it water? Well, it's not water, because if you drink it for 5 days, you'll die.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't work with our metabolism. It doesn't have the same kind of kinetics, same kind of quantum mechanical kinetics that regular hydrogen does. It doesn't quantum tunnel the same way. So they said this is incompatible with life. And they said, luckily, there's not much heavy water on the planet. Like if you say, if we know that 1 out of every 3,300 molecules on the water on Earth is in this configuration of HOD or HDO, right? But 1 out of every 41 million molecules is in that D2O category.
Got it.
Configuration. So it's very little of it, but they synthesize it in a lab and they use it for nuclear power and atomic energy as a neutron moderator. So the Americans looked at this and they said, okay, this is bad. This is incompatible with biology. And the Russians looked at it the other way. Well, what happens when you reduce the amount of deuterium in the water? So they discovered that sure enough, when you reduce it, things, like I said, grow faster, better, stronger, and live longer. And it really has to do with weight. It's weight. We call our product light water because it is technically lighter if you put it on a scale next to regular water. That deuterium does weigh something. It really does weigh something, and it weighs us down. In my lectures, I talk about it like the gum that's stuck on the bottom of your shoe. You just got ready for a long race. You bought brand new shoes. You've trained for months, if not longer, and you're ready to go. And first thing you do out the gate is step in gum. So it's going to slow you down. It's very annoying. And this is what deuterium is doing for us. It's slowing us down. And this is why ultimately it causes your mitochondria to break down and your cells go into senescence, apoptosis, death. So when you're young, a cell may have 30 times more mitochondria than that same cell after it replicates for 5-6 decades. Yeah. So and it's
powerful.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's energy, right? It's just it's all about energy. We're at that time in human evolution where we really have to consider energy, not only the energy for our bodies, but like I said in the beginning, this having this unsustainable 600 times more energy demand than we produce. So we have to take energy into real consideration now, because we know a lot more about human biochemistry than we did 20, 30 years ago. We even know more than we did 10 years ago. Yeah. So it's an energy game now, and the more we know, the more information we have, the better we can be at asking the right questions. Yeah. So, and this is where we're at now. So I feel very, very blessed, very fortunate, very excited to share this information with people, because I've been doing it for almost 3 years, drinking deuterium depleted water to reduce my deuterium levels. Now, when we started this company, we just went for it. We didn't have any deuterium depleted water to prove to ourselves that it was doing anything. We truly believed in the science. And the science has not proven us wrong at all. I feel really good about that, because science has really backed us up on this. Because after 2.5 years of drinking DDW, and my deuterium levels are in the 100 to 110 ppm range. Okay. And I've noticed it's just incredible. It's incredible improvement. And well, I'm already pretty healthy, but I've noticed like it's like cheating. Like, like my cardio is incredible. I don't even do that much effort for it. My metabolism is just phenomenal. It's like my waist size is the same. It was in high school. I turned 50 this year. So, sleep, my God. I mean, everything is just optimized, right? And this is because the body can conserve more energy to put where it needs to for self-healing.
And it's interesting, in the world of longevity, as well as obviously very well, for the audience, everybody's studying mitochondria or mitochondrial health. Like they're like, okay, this is one of the keys to longevity. Make sure these powerhouses are running at full steam, they're functioning and they're healthy, and we get rid of the bad ones. And it sounds like that, this is like a direct link into the machine, inside the machine, right? Inside the mitochondria.
Absolutely. You go as far into the mitochondria as you can. into the very inner workings or the nano confined spaces where energy is made, where energy is appropriated. So this is incredible because, while I said this sentence, our body made more cells than the population of Canada, right?
Yeah.
So it's a constant recycling process of cellular metabolism.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the inner workings of the mitochondria and what's really going on. And the more we learn about it, the more we can marvel at what an incredible machine it is. And in fact, it is mechanical. It's purely mechanical. This problem that deuterium presents to our biology is purely mechanical. It's not philosophical. It's not theoretical. It's purely mechanical.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's helping the mitochondria function. You mean like it's almost like super unleaded, or if you will, for the body versus throwing diesel accidentally into a gas car.
I like to use that analogy as well. If you put the wrong gas in your car, you're going to get wear and tear, and eventually it's going to break down. And this is what's happening. So this is a top level biohack.
Yeah,
that we have now.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
So the question is, with your, you've been using it for 3 years, you've been studying it for a lot longer than that. With the clients, with the customers that are using the water, what kind of feedback are you getting?
It's varied. A lot of it we don't share, especially people dealing with medical conditions.
Okay.
There's a doctor in Hungary. He has his own company for producing deuterium depleted water, a colleague of ours. And he's been doing research in oncology since the early 90s, 93 to be exact. He had a theory back in graduate school that the deuterium hydrogen ratio in the body turns on and off oncogenes, genes that give you a higher risk of getting cancer. So in 20 plus years of doing this, or actually longer than that, but in 20 plus years, he was able to accumulate over 3,000 case studies using deuterium depletion as a protocol in cancer therapy. And he wrote a couple books on it. A new one came out this year. And he found that he didn't stop the conventional treatment that people had, or he didn't interfere with whatever they're doing as a medical treatment. He just said, lower your deuterium levels and let's see what happens. And he did this, like I said, with now over 3,000 case studies. And he found that he had an 8 to 10x survivability rate with people, which is just phenomenal, that's not small at all. Not small at all. So, but generally people feel, so when you drink DDW, you will deplete about half a ppm per day, maybe up to 1 ppm. So within 45 to 90 days, you can comfortably say you'll get somewhere in the upper 120 ppm range or lower, depending on your lifestyle. But sure enough, within 6 months, everything will be firing really well. So, because this is cumulative. So older people tend to feel it faster than younger people.
Okay.
Because I don't think the body ever expects that your deuterium is going to get lowered, right? It's just not something that you go, whoa, it's like reverse aging in that sense, in terms of accumulation of a contaminant, in this case, a natural contaminant.
Yeah.
So people, metabolism is a big one. Everybody that has a deuterium depleted body will notice a metabolic benefit.
Okay.
They will know another interesting benefit, and this is based on studies that my colleagues have done in Eastern Europe, and ones that I'd like to repeat here. As you know, it's expensive to do studies, but anyway, these cost a lot, and they were doing studies with for athletic performance. They had a cross section of athletes, non-athletes, and kind of weekend warrior type people. So I think total 6, 6, and 6, and they noticed that after 30 days on deuterium depletion, you needed half the amount of oxygen to perform the same amount of work.
Oh wow,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
and it made me interested in researching these alpine climbers in Mount Everest specifically, and formulate this theory that the reason that the Sherpas can summit Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen, whereas you'll pass out and die of hypoxia if you're a Westerner, is because their deuterium levels are significantly reduced. They live in an area where that glacier, that water there is in the 126 parts per million, which is quite low. And so over time, they have depleted their deuterium to the point where not only they can summit Mount Everest, but they can carry your stuff while they're doing it.
While they're doing it, yeah.
And so the Westerners that have summited Everest, they have done so because they not only did they practice a ketogenic diet leading up to it, which will lower your deuterium, but they also acclimated, or they say acclimated at base camp. Well, acclimation is not only oxygen or atmospheric gas of breathing, but acclimation is water. And they didn't really factor this into it. So I talked to some of these alpine guys and informed them that, that what you were doing essentially by spending 3 months over there in the Himalayas is you're depleting your deuterium, and now you have a better shot at going up to
That's pretty neat.
That elevation. Yeah, it's
regimen.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty wild. Another study that was interesting was in 1999 in Moscow, Russia. They gave 15 liters of it to a horse right before a race. And this is all documented and everything. And it broke the course record, a four-year gelding, I think. And so it's a mitochondrial intervention, right?
Yeah.
So if you can utilize less oxygen to get the same amount of work done, what happens when you utilize more oxygen, right?
Exactly.
You'll get more work. But there is a theoretic limit to those ATP synthase nanomotors, and that's 9,000 RPM is the rate at which they spin, which is profound when you consider that it's 100% efficient motor. Like, we can't make 100% efficient motor like that. So the question is, do your mitochondria spin at 9,000 RPM? Yeah. So that's the goal. And I think in time, maybe this is something that can be applied to break a 3-minute mile, maybe. Yeah. We're always pushing the ability of the human organism. And, in the last 100 years, we've as a species, we've accomplished things that were just in the realm of fantasy before.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. You know, you got me thinking. I have a friend that's going to be climbing Everest, and another friend that maybe, I'm not sure when he's there this year, going to be climbing. So I'm going to, this is just a really neat thing to pass along, because obviously they're going to acclimate and do all of those things. But this may be a so-called biohack, right? To start ahead of schedule, so then when you're acclimating and doing this stuff at base camp and up through the different camps, it's like just like an extra win.
Seriously, if they get their deuterium levels down to the 120 range, and actually if they're competitive athletes, and they're doing something out of the ordinary, I'd get it down even lower to the 100 ppm range, and then go up, and then you'll see that you probably won't need that supplemental oxygen. Yeah.
So, and it's really, really cool. So tell the audience, like, where's the best place to find this water?
Well, you can only find it in one place, and that's drinklightwater.com. Perfect. At least our water. Like I said, there's certain places where you can go and get water that's a little lower. Boulder, Colorado is an interesting place because it has 139 parts per million out the tap. Okay. A lot of places in Idaho as well have 10 ppm less or more than 10 ppm than cities. So these are great places, like for long term if you want to live there. But drinklightwater.com, that's our website, and we're just a handful. We're just, like I said, there are just a few companies that produce this water. We make the most deuterium depleted water out there, and we don't make much of it. It's a very difficult process. You have to mimic or recreate the hydrological cycle of nature and amplify it. So it's not a standard process. It's called vacuum assisted rectification distillation. It's a lot of moving parts, and it's just very, very. It's a lot of engineering that went into this, and this is why you can't do it at home. yet. I don't, it's like, I always encourage people that if you're a scientist out there, try to figure it out how to, because that'll change the game for the evolution of man, really. Yeah. But right now it takes a lot of energy to produce. That's why the water is expensive. And, but it works. It works we can make one claim about it. And that claim is that if you drink deuterium depleted water, you will lower the deuterium level in your body. That's a fact. And whatever else it does is the benefit of being deuterium depleted. And, the water just gets you there.
Very cool. So everybody, make sure you head down the show notes, on the Human Powered Life podcast page that this will be on. And you'll be able to get right over to Drink Light Water. You'll be able to find Victor. We'll have some social links for you. Make sure you can follow and learn more. So, Victor, this has been a lot of fun. I'm excited to learn more. And make sure everybody, you stay tuned. Head over to the website, lifestylelocker.com, and check out the video portion we're going to have on after the show. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Human Powered Life podcast. Make sure to head over to lifestylelocker.com to check out all the details on the show and to watch part 2 of this episode, which is only in video format. We also have this audio portion in video format if you want. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, for the Human Powered Life podcast, and I'm looking forward to staying connected with you as a Human Powered Life hero. Remember to join the tribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.